So have you ever considered buying a franchise and really want to know how to do it? Well, guess what? We have the expert today. We're going to interview Rick Hudson, who we have an advanced copy, not even available yet, of the Ultimate Franchise Buyer's Guide. We're so excited to talk to Rick. We'll tell you more about him in just a moment. Get ready.
Yeah, so get your cup of coffee, your adult beverage, whatever you need. Grab a pencil and pen, right? You're going to be the one who probably take some notes today. And join us on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
You've reached the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. And now your hosts, Jan O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
Well, welcome everyone to the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. This is episode 250. You can find all of our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Jan O'Brien, 250, and the gang is back together again.
Yes, indeed. For the first time I've seen Rick Hudson, who's our guest. Let's bring him in here and talk to him for a second, because before we get him going about what he's up to, because I haven't seen Rick Hudson in, my God, how many years has it been?
Jan O'Brien! Matt Emerson!
Rick Hudson.
Oh my goodness.
The gang is all together again. We all know each other from our stint at working in the corporate world of Realty One Group, which is where we met because of doing franchise operations for that company. And Rick is one of the experts who has done, like, in fact, when I first met you, I thought you only knew real estate franchise, but that's not the truth, huh?
No, well, listen, first thing I want to do before we do anything else, you're saying that this is what, 250 episodes of your podcast?
Yeah, man.
Like, that's like a 250,000.
It is a matter of fact.
Yeah, we started this in like 16, 20.
Look, wait a minute. We got to celebrate here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wait a minute.
250. We're a quarter sold in.
250? That's insane. What I was going to try and do, but, time gets away from us. But I was going to try and write my my David Letterman top 10 things that Rick Hudson has never done 250 of. But I didn't get to it.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for noticing.
But listen, no,
you're on 250. You are 250.
Yes, well, I'm honored to be 250, man. That's 250,000, and that's just amazing, because 250 of anything, man, that's a pretty awesome accomplishment, especially when it comes to doing a podcast. In and out, week after week, for many, that's years, right?
Several years.
Yeah.
Several years.
Good times.
That's awesome. Well, we got stuff everywhere now, so I'll clean that up later.
But Rick, tell our audience who you are and what's got you to this place that you're about to publish for real. We've got an advanced copy of this Ultimate Franchise Buyer's Guide. Yeah. What got you? Where'd you start, and how'd you get to here?
So, good story, because I don't come from much at home. I'm originally from North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I grew up. My dad died when I was like 6 years old or so. But a mentor of mine was my uncle, his brother, and he was for many, many years in Raleigh, North Carolina. He was a very well-known realtor and broker there. And so he was I remember him driving along in his Mercedes at the time, with no cell phones back then, right? So his radio phone. Do you know about those? The radio phones that were you had to have some money to have one of those, right? But yeah, he had a radio, and you had to get on the phone back then from the car and say over, and all of that. Wow. So, but he was a real inspiration for me, and I just looked up to him. But he was a broker and an owner of an ERA franchise in Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. And so in high school, though, I really wanted to be in broadcasting. radio and television. And after high school, I went on for 5 years or so to work in the radio business. But with radio, you're transient. You got to move from city to city. And I ended up saying, I'm done with radio, and I moved to California. When I got to California, I got my real estate license. And so in the early 90s, I was a real estate agent. And I didn't want, though, to sell homes to people that wanted to. I didn't like the people buying for emotional reasons. I liked working with investors. And so that's what I worked with for many years. And I did some commercial at the time and all of that. And then in 2003, I got a call from the name of the company at the time was Sendent. And Sendent owned They went on to change their name to Realogy when I was there, and now they are Anywhere Real Estate, I guess now, right?
Well, they changed their name again. Yep.
Yeah. But I went on to start selling real estate franchises, and so the very first franchise that I started selling was ERA Real Estate franchise in Southern California. And that was a ton of fun, but it exposed me to what I saw was just a way for most people who aren't like some people, man, are just born with the entrepreneurial spirit where they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with chills of an idea that they just have to make a business. Or they know they can build a brokerage and they have all the tools to do that. One of your, podcast guests just a few episodes back, Chance Brown, who I know very well, right? We know Chance, and Chance is one of those guys, right? It's just very much autonomous person and that sort of thing. But for all the rest of us who aren't Elon Musk, who aren't the Bill Gates of the world, who can do all of that, for all the rest of us, we need some help in building a business like that. And that's what I saw was the key with franchising. I've seen just so many people since 2003 when I started in franchising end up building companies that are just really huge companies by aligning themselves with franchisors that can help them with the kind of tools and systems and processes to help them ramp things up quicker and to help them scale things to big success. So that's how I got into the franchising business. And then, of course, we can talk about that. I left Realogy and ended up going to Realty Executives for a while. Left there and went to other franchises like Napa Auto Parts and Sears Auto Centers, and then after all of that is when I met Matt Emerson and Jan O'Brien, and so in 2012. Was hired by Realty One Group and Cuba to start. I was the very first employee of Realty One Group affiliates. In fact, don't tell Cuba that I'm claiming this, but I even came up with the name Realty One Group affiliates. And so I helped Cuba to get the FDD with the disclosure documents all together so that we could launch it. And then the first couple of years of that, before I left, we did phenomenally. Look, it's really, really hard to get a franchise off the ground. And I mean, you're building momentum, right? You're kind of building something from really nothing. People just don't, you haven't franchised and people don't believe in you yet, right? Sure. So that's what we did, and we grew it. Before I left, we grew it to some 30 or so offices. We had some of those offices today, I'm just amazed at how big they are.
Yep.
It's amazing.
and how strong they are.
And how many offices they have now. So
yeah, just the company in general, the growth of, and well, the company is a franchise company now. Before there were more, company stores when we were all there, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Helped to get off the ground, or got it off the ground, and there it is today. So now what happened? You go and you start you leave and you tell us the rest of the story that got you to what you're doing now. Yeah.
So great story there too, because I left Realty One Group, and I said, I'm done. Look, when you're working in the corporate world on the corporate franchise side of things, you're helping people to start new businesses with franchises. But man, it can be, you're in the corporate world. And so it can be taxing as far as being in the corporate world. And I was on airplanes. I remember there was one time where I was flying back home, and my wife was flying out, and we both live in Southern California, but we happened to be able to meet right there in the hallway, in the concourse at Oakland Airport, when we're both flying out.
How romantic.
I'm coming in, I got to take care of the kids. When I get there, she just left and handled so I'm like, wait a minute, time out. This is not what life is supposed to be all about. The kids were, much younger than they are now. And I just said, this is, the corporate life is really just not really much for me anymore. And so when I left Realty One Group, I said, okay, got to go do it on my own. And I started my own business brokerage. So just selling businesses here in Orange County, California, where I live in Southern California, and was just doing the business broker thing for a good 4-5-ish years or so. And then I thought, you know what? I know so much about franchising that, here's I talk about this in the book. And so, when you get the book, at some point you can read these stories, but I just saw how many people were really making bad decisions and flawed decisions when they were buying businesses. So everybody wants to get into a lot, or not everybody, but there's a lot of people want to own their own business. I saw a statistic by Vistaprint, who said 62% of people want to own their own business, but actually it's 14% or so really consider it a goal. And I just saw how often, so many people were making mistakes, in buying their businesses, and they'd lose all this money. And I just figured that really most people owning a business, most people should be really looking at a franchise, because not everybody, granted, like like we talked about, some of the people are just naturally gifted at entrepreneurialism. Well, they should go scratch that itch, right? But for all the others that need help in trying to, buy a business and work through business opportunities, they should really be looking at a franchise.
Yeah, you've got a great quote in that book. I think it was something like entrepreneurs are the only people that are willing to work 80-hour weeks so they don't have to work a 40-hour week.
Yeah. Well, I will, that couldn't be more true,
right.
That. But that I won't take the claim that. I think that's Lori Grenier from the Shark.
I couldn't remember who it actually. Yeah, exactly. It was a good one.
But yeah, for sure, that's the truth, really. I mean, entrepreneurs. Look, they say that self-employed people earn have about a 4.2 times the net worth of employed Americans on average. Okay. And now, but there's a reason for that. There's struggle you have to go through when owning a business, but that's where franchising really helps. I think for many, not everybody. It's not for everybody, but for many, it can be. Look, even for the guy who's very entrepreneurial, sort of have those tendencies, franchising can even help that guy to kind of take his eye off, not be so involved in the business, but still be able to scale it on a much quicker and faster basis. And so that's what we do. My company now is called BizVendr, and we help people to buy and invest in franchises, and that's franchises really of all kinds, like you were saying, Jan. It's franchises in home services, health and beauty, fitness. It could be a lot of B2B franchises. For your audience, I was even thinking, there are a lot of franchises that are complementary to real estate agents and brokers and that sort of thing. So it's a way for them to maybe augment the income on their real estate side with another business, So
I have a question about that. So when you said that, so I'm sitting here thinking of all the people that we talk to that got that entrepreneurial spirit, looking for another revenue stream or another business, but it's overwhelming to think about where do you start? Like, so that would be the question. Like, how does one know they might have a passion for something, fitness, health, whatever. How do you help somebody figure out two-part question. How do you figure out what's a good franchise to get into? And then where do you start to even figure out who is a franchise?
Yeah. So great question, because you guys know, especially, and your audience knows, when it comes to buying a house, there's a definite process that you have to go through when it comes to buying a house. And the whole value that agents bring to that equation is that they know, they're experts in that process, right? And they know the landmines and the pitfalls that buyers should watch out for, sellers should watch out for. That's why people get the use of great realtors and agents, right? And that's really, in my business now, that's essentially what we do. Is we help people to buy the right franchise. Sometimes it's not always an actual franchise. It's maybe a business opportunity that looks like one, but that's what we do. And the subtitle on the book is the 7 proven steps to launching a 7-figure local business. And that's what it is. There are 7 great steps that we can kind of help them carry them through to make sure that they make it a safe and wise and sound investment. So to answer your question, Jan, the first step in that process is really, man, you got to get inside of this, right? You got to know what your skills, what your goals, and what your interests are, and really get all of that together to really know what ultimately is going to be a good franchise for you. It's different for everybody, right? What is a great franchise for Matt might be a terrible franchise for Jan, right? And so that's what we do. Is the first thing I do is I send clients of mine what I call the franchise fingerprint, and that's an online assessment tool, a quiz, really just a quick quiz that they do in online in 8 minutes or so. But it has them to start to think about and answer questions on, do I want a business that's B2B, or do I want a business that is that allows me some free time, or do I want to put all of my time into this business? Do I want something? What's the area that I'm looking at? All of the parameters and really that make up a good franchise for them is it's what's included in that franchise fingerprint, because it's unique for everybody. And so that's the first step, is really just getting a good idea on what it is you're looking for. It's trying to decide ahead of time where you're going, right? And then where I take that franchise fingerprint and kind of delve a little deeper with them as to what their answers are. But I take that then and I help them to go find the right franchise for them. Just and your audience is in tune to this, right? Because just like an agent would go help a buyer's agent would go help a buyer find the right houses. That's exactly what we do. There are 4,000 or so franchises out there.
Wow.
Like I said, of all kinds. And that's what we do at the name of my company is BizVendr. And that's what we do is we help them to find the right franchise for them. By the way, just like with realtors, the seller pays their commission. When I help them find the right franchise, the franchisor pays our fee. And so that's how
cool.
we help.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. So BizVendr, that's spelled BizVendr if you're listening, okay? And I'm sure you have a website, right? That we can go to and learn more about how to do that. So that's so cool. So before we get into, we have a couple questions that we want to ask you, but I have one more question so a couple things in talking to you, you got my mind going here. I'm excited to read this book, and thanks for setting a pre what do you call it? It's not quite out yet.
Yeah. So
what's the time frame because we're going to get some people saying, how do I get that book?
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing. This is kind of like in the industry and the publishers, I had an editor help me on this, and the publishers call it a galley copy.
Galley, that's the word.
But for me, really, I just call it the beta copy, right? Yeah. This is the beta copy of the book, and the Ultimate Franchise Buyer's Guide, and I really just wrote it because I don't want people making mistakes when they're making hundreds. Look, we work with people anywhere from usually $100,000 to invest on up to $1 million or so. That's kind of the sweet spot for us. But even for $50,000, I mean, nobody wants to waste $50,000 investment, right? And so the book will help them. I mean, I really have some great questions in there that you can kind of challenge the franchisors, the people you're going to make an investment to, so that you can challenge them to make sure they're not putting lipstick on a pig, right? I mean, there's salespeople out there, right? But we don't really work with any franchises. We run from many of the franchises that and there's not many, but there are unscrupulous people in the world, and franchising is very heavily regulated now because in the past there have been companies that have taken advantage of investors' money. But for the most part, you're not going to find that in franchising,
because of regulations and so forth, and
it's just it's so heavily regulated.
You really, to the rest of the question there is, if somebody works with you, somebody's really listening and has been, I really always want to know about how to get into a franchise of this type of business or whatever, or as an ancillary business to my real estate business, or even as an exit strategy from this business.
There's it.
Right. So you really walk them through all the way through the steps. You are literally their franchise coach. Is that it from the beginning to the end?
I believe actually Rick is the chief encourager.
Encourager.
Well, apparently you've been right in that book. I just didn't even realize my copy was on the wrong place in my house outside, but I got it now.
Matt's reading.
That's for sure. Encourager. Now that's a cool name. Tell us about that. You're going to walk them through the whole process all the way up to the finish line.
Yes, no doubt. I mean, if you think about it, like agents, they really want to help their clients, their buying clients. They want to help them to find the right house, right? They don't care which house the client buys, but they want to help them. That's what they're in the business, and they really want to help them find the right house for them. And so that's what we do is we help our clients to find the right franchise for them, and couldn't care less which one they choose. There's a franchise out there that sells, and it does quite well. And I know Matt's going to laugh at this one, but it's a service that picks up dog poop in your backyard.
Nice.
You know, so look, I'm gonna tell you what, my dog's not living, died a few years ago, but it was the one thing that that I hated doing. So much so that I tried to, as much as possible, force my kids to do it, right? And so, but yeah, there's all kinds of franchises out there, and that's what we do is we help them to find the right one. So when you look at those steps, the first one is really to get clear in your own mind as to, you know, what it is you want to do. And from there, then you really got to, well, then just like you guys know with when it comes to real estate, you better start making sure early on in the process that you can afford to do this and what you can afford to do, right? And so the next phase, and number two, is really kind of look at your funding. How are you going to fund this franchise, right? Do you need to talk to an SBA lender? A lot of people have 401ks that they can legally, and IRS in compliance with the IRS, use those 401k funds. Or if they're going to do all cash, whatever you're going to do, let's look at your budget before you just go start searching for a business, right?
Makes sense.
So that's the second step, and then it's just really kind of shortlisting and starting to look, but shortlisting the franchises and kind of going through the process of the due diligence for the third through the seventh step to launching it. And we take them, we carry them through the process the whole way through from beginning to end, Jan, to really kind of help them to see what, make sure that they're diving in and going to make the right decision for them. It's like I said, and most of the time we're looking at and working with people that are going to invest, like I said, anywhere from 100,000 to 2 or 3 or 400. Well, look, man, that's a lot of money, and you can't make mistakes with that kind of money. So that's what we help them do, and we mitigate any risk they have by giving them all the questions, helping them to do all the right due diligence to make sure they make the right decision.
And it really is well done, Rick. When this book actually gets released, you're going to have a lot of success with this because it's easy to read. The workbook part of this is fantastic because it really makes you use your little gray cells, right? And walks you through the whole thing, just like you're talking about, all the way up to the launch and then like marketing and advertising and stuff afterwards, right? So, all right, here's the thing I want you to talk a little bit about. Jan and I are, well, I think everyone back in our time back on Realty One Group, we were really big with hashtags. We were hashtag people, right? Loving the hashtag.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, Jan O'Brien and I had a secret hashtag right before we left Realty One Group that really was not, it was used by the company, but we had an alternate meaning for that. The hashtag was Hello Tomorrow. And Jan and I were using it as, ooh, every time we saw that hashtag, it was like, oh, we're going to WBNL coaching right around the corner.
Hello tomorrow.
So Rick, tell us a little bit about hashtag local moguls. Local
moguls. Well, that is near and dear to my heart because, listen, local moguls was a moniker that I came up with to describe kind of the people that I see in the world of franchising that, that are really kind of making a difference, making an impact, not only on themselves and their bank accounts and, they're really their families, but also the world around them. And so, with franchising, I just seen that, franchising makes that happen. So I came up with a moniker and then I came up with a manifesto.
Okay.
There you go.
That I have for the local mogul. And so I'll read that to you real quick because I just think it really kind of speaks to who should be really looking kind of and what we're helping people to do when it comes to franchising, right? So straight from the book, page 13 in the book. I had to get it in there early on. A local mogul is a courageous, ambitious entrepreneur who dares to pursue dreams deemed too lofty or risky by others. They are unsatisfied living average or mediocre lives and believe business ownership creates the wealth, lifestyle, and freedom they desire. A local mogul takes control of their destiny to shape their own future and forge their own path. They are willing to make the investment of discipline, time, and money, and others are reluctant to make. They dare to dream, create a plan, and execute their vision with determination, embracing any struggle, knowing that that easy doesn't pay well, right? Local moguls are get-it-done people that inspire others to fulfill their mission. They want to make their own mark, make a difference, and have an impact on their community by creating jobs, empowering employees, and serving customers with the utmost care and integrity. A local mogul is an empire builder that believes massive success is possible and most rewarding when they share that success with others.
Yeah.
I am a local mogul.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant, dude.
Yeah.
Inspiring.
So yeah, that's what a local mogul is, and I've just seen many of them. I see, come to think of it, let's talk about who some of the local moguls that we know of are. I would certainly say that Greg McClure,
absolutely,
Rockland, California, when he came on to Realty One Group. Man, I'm trying to recall the best I can, but I think he had at that time, he was a broker and he was, struggling. He really wanted to grow his company to be really big. And he was struggling. I think he had like 17, 18, maybe 20 agents, but not in that ballpark, right? I think he has like 600 or something.
I think it is. I think it is 6. I just saw he just did an announcement not too long ago about that. It's awesome.
Greg McClure is the personified local mogul, right? Navid Ali in San Ramon, California. Just personify what a local mogul is, and it's not just about them. Right? It's not just their businesses aren't just about them. It's about serving their community, serving of course their employees and their agents well, and lifting everybody up. And kudos to those guys because they have really grown great big businesses, franchisees that I helped to bring into the system at Realty One Group, and now they're local moguls.
Yeah, there
awesome.
You go.
Very good. That's really cool. And you know what they do? You have a part in the book where you talk about the hiring your team, right? Where you're actually putting your team together, which is such a big part of what their success actually turned out to be, right? You have the 15 steps to the hiring process, which are all great stuff. From what I loved about those 15 steps was not only the whole idea of not rushing the process, right? Don't go too fast, right? Yeah. Hire the right people, right? And then really get them into your cultures, because Jen and I talk about culture all the time. Culture is such an important part of the process. So that's great. And then you have, I think, the 8 scary hiring mistakes too, or in there too. I'm telling you, Rick, the book is great because it's soup to nuts, right? It helps you think about every single part of the process. It's not just going out and finding the franchise you want to buy. It's running your freaking business, right? So you need to do the whole thing. So
yeah, I mean, look, it's the basics. It's everything that people just get away from doing time and time again. But in the crucial stages of looking at a franchise is when you're about to spend, a few $100,000 possibly, worst case scenario, $20,000, $50,000, in those stages, man, you don't want to lose that money. And so you really got to make sure that you're asking all the right questions. You're making sure that franchise is a good fit for you. You're making sure that the franchisor is going to support you in a way that you need to have done, and it's going to make you successful, right? And so yeah, that's beginning to end to launching. So the 7 steps are really beginning to end. Brainstorm your goals, plan your funding, find your short list, analyze the business model, then confirm all the facts and figures that you've just confirm all of that before you're ready to sign. You sign and you close the deal and you start to launch your franchise with the help of the franchisor. And so nice. Really that's what we do, so much so at BizVendr.
Nice. We could actually talk about that and talk with you all day on that. We do have a little thing called the Ask 5, which we're going to get to right now. We're going to do a little modified version, Rick, because you don't really have real estate agents working for you. So we're going to have the modified Ask 5
Ask
today.
3.
Yeah, it's really going to be the Ask 3. So the first question we have here, really, Rick, and this is something for you and everybody in the world. Everyone has this issue. What holds you back?
What holds me back? That's a good one, because yes, everybody, look, despite all the gurus on YouTube who have it all figured out and sell that package of having it all figured out, right? No, everybody has things that hold them back, and I would say for me, the thing that holds me back is this dreaded word that's in my head a lot of time: consistency.
Yep.
Consistency really for me is, look, I'm really good, and that's kind of how I have always treated many things in my life. I'm a starter, man. I'm a self-starter. I that's what really franchising and what I do. I'm really good at starting things, right? But I kind of drift off sometimes and don't stick to what I know is successful, and the habits. That's it. The habits. Look, I'll show you this. Here's a good answer to that question. Okay, so what I do is I have to devise schemes and tricks to make sure that I'm staying consistent. So when I wrote the book, this is actually what I had to do to kind of make sure that I stay consistent. Okay, those desk calendars, these really big desk calendars, right? So this is my desk calendar that I used, and I took 90 days or so, and I mapped out the 5 things that I needed to do every day.
Nice.
And for every day, and I put a green box around it if I did them all that day, and I put a red X on the day that I didn't do so well, right? And so I did that, and I still do that now. But I did that and to make sure that, oh, and by the way, if I didn't do it that day, I did it for 90 days straight. I said, I'm going to write this book for 90 days straight, right? And if I didn't do any one of those 5 things on that day, I had to add a day to the end, kind of, kind of a penalty, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I did that for 90 days. I wrote the book. I did some other major things that I lost in 90 days. I lost, well, it was 90 days. Yeah. So I lost 70 pounds in 90 days. Because I was able to, focus and be consistent about it. And so now I've kind of migrated away from the desk calendar and have just another little calendar here that I use, where I just put red dots and green circles as to whether or not I've accomplished those,
nice.
those days. But consistency, man, it's a constant mindset battle, right? So I have to just devise ways to make sure that I am consistent and in my life. And when I'm consistent, I don't try and take off, chew big bites of meat, right? How do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. So, but you can eat an elephant if you eat a bite a day, right? You can tackle that, and that's what I have to do. I just kind of have to keep myself consistent. When I'm consistent, nothing holds me back.
There you go. There's
nice. Found a way to do it. So yes, this next question is, where do you draw your inspiration from? It could be anything. Is it people, books, podcasts? Is there anything that you're currently listening or been introduced to that you would want to share? Yeah, so that's a tough one. Really, to be quite candid, I'm a 57-year-old dude right now, right? I'm kind of getting old and setting my ways but really. What inspires me the most, I think, these days are just some of these young kids that are in their 20s that are, kicking butt and taking names in the business world. Yeah.
And so, I'm just amazed. I mean, some of these guys, especially online with online businesses that they've got, and I know that there's this thing that the millennials just don't want to work and all of that. But man, I see, I'm just inspired so much by some of these kids these days. Probably the most relevant one to me is my own son. My son is 21 years old, and at the age of 16 or 17 or so, he started dabbling in the music business, and he decided he was going to be a manager, not a talent, because he ain't got any talent that way, but he decided he was going to be a manager in the music business.
Wow. And
now I'll give you this: I'm no fan of the music. I am absolutely no fan of the music, that he and his artists are working with. But he's 21 years old, and he's making more money than I ever made, at that age, because he's managing music artists and going to New York. He just got back from Miami, going to New York, flying around. Was in Poland a few months ago. These kids these days are just doing incredible things. Yeah. And I get a lot of inspiration. I mean, I'm looking down at some of these kids and going, man, if they can do it, I ought to be able to do it too. And so, yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from that. If you're going to ask me about authors and books and stuff like that, I'd have to say probably my most favorite authors right now, as far as business is concerned, are Russell Brunson and Alex Hormozy. Alex Hormozy is a guy that studied really kind of under Russell Brunson, but Russell Brunson is from a company called ClickFunnels that does a lot of marketing and has a marketing tool and app out there. And the guy just has some great books: Expert Secrets, .com Secrets, Traffic Secrets. Just a lot of good stuff in those books. But yeah, that's who I get a lot of inspiration from, these young kids these days, I guess, because I'm getting so old, man.
Hey, nothing better than able to say one of your inspirations is your son. That is freaking awesome, Rick. That also tells a little something about the parenting, I dare say. So, last question we have for you today in our modified Ask 5 is, what's your best advice for either someone that is a franchisee now or someone that's looking to become a franchisee in 2023, or really just kind of beyond? So what's your advice? Yeah, beyond eventually get your book and follow the 7 steps. But
yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I really do kind of, point back to that, whether they, read my book or work through me or whatever, as you start to get to, the ages of, your 40s and up, especially, you start to think about, okay, man, I'm knocking on the door of retirement, at some point, and what kind of equity, just like your audience is familiar with equity in their homes, what kind of equity and am I going to have when it's time for me to cash out? And so my advice, the best advice I think I can give you, is look. There are so many franchises that you could look at that really don't involve much of the owner's time. I mean, all sorts of franchises, and so whether it's a franchise or whether it's an online business, get some kind of business that's going to help set you up and build some equity so that you can end up selling that business. Like I said, if self-employed people, as in realtors and agents and broker owners and business owners, if they are, have 4 times the net worth of employed, people out there, employed Americans, you really got to be thinking about what you're going to do, at some point in retirement, and build some equity for yourself so that you can, cash out, make some money while you're running that business, but cash out and have a big nest egg from a business ownership perspective too. So hopefully that helps some people.
Yes, indeed. Great stuff today. Got me inspired. Ready to go read another book right now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen. So yeah, the book is we're going to launch right now. The book is in, like I said earlier, kind of what I call the beta phase, or it's a galley copy. Anybody that I'll give it to anybody. And in fact, any of my clients, I make the investment in my clients before I want them to make any investment. Right. So I'm going to, express it to any of my clients. I even have, along with the Ultimate Franchise Buyer's Guide edition, I have the workbook edition. So this is, you lay this book out on your desk and you ask all the questions, you fill in the blanks. I mean, you can't go wrong when it comes to buying the right franchise. And then I give that to them for free. And so, whether it's through me or it doesn't have to be through me. There are, plenty of people that you can talk to for help, but do something to kind of, spur on that chance to, grow some equity in yourself and your future through business ownership. It's the way to go.
Really Excellent. Good stuff. Very good stuff, guys. Jan, any final questions? Or
no, I think it's awesome. Covered it
Jan's
all.
She's ready to go get a franchise. I can see it in her head.
I really want to go look into a few things here. I might be calling you. Okay.
Well, listen, I got to congratulate before we leave. I got to congratulate you again, man. 250,000. That's just a ton of podcasts. I know how much. I can only imagine. I did the book, right? So I know how much work that is. So let's go ahead and once again celebrate and congratulate you guys on a job well done of 250 incredible episodes. That's nice. Amazing.
You're awesome. You're awesome, Rick. And on that note, it's what a great way to kick off season 2 of our Ask 5. I'm telling you right now. So if you want to get more information about Rick, about BizVendr, about the book coming out, any of that stuff, go over to our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. This was, if you didn't already know, episode 250. We have all of that information over there, and you'll be able to reach out to Mr. Hudson and get a little more info on all that he does in his world. So Rick, thank you again for joining us today. Remember, everyone, get up, get out, live the life you frickin' dreamed, and be forever wandering but not lost.